Join us in this divine moment of reflection, where every heart finds its sanctuary. You seem like Neo to this cult of agents, chosen one, and the fear emanating from their artificial cause is seductive because you are the one factor they didn't anticipate. In your presence, their entire algorithm malfunctions because they are so really connected to their source. You're demonstrating to everyone who watched that their matrix was always a complex fiction that only held sway because people thought it was genuine, not merely that you're living outside of it. When they approach with pretentious promises of love, commitment, and contracts, your discernment slashes through their illusions with surgical accuracy. You can clearly see the poison within these snake-like beings that creep into your life, with familiar looks and honeyed words that are laced with deceptive promises. They present you with cups of what appears to be wine, but tastes like bitter deception. Relationships that promise depth, but only provide energy harvesting at the surface level. Once you begin to pay attention, the pattern becomes more apparent. All of the people who have attempted to dim your light, all of the circumstances that have tried to confine you, and all of the missed opportunities that shone like gold, but fell apart like pyrite in your hands were not random events. The attempt to shatter your frequency and pull you down into the same dreary reality that has engulfed everyone else around you has been a concerted campaign against your consciousness. However, they are unaware of and unable to understand that your ancestors have been observing everything they do. Generations of warriors of consciousness who refuse to submit to control structures, even at the cost of everything, are the guardians of your lineage. Your ancestral guardians respond with a rage that would make ancient gods shudder whenever someone tries to upset your energy or hurt you emotionally. In addition to protecting you, they precisely retaliate, trapping your adversaries in vicious loops of their own invention. Right now, 9 minds, possibly more, are racing with questions about why their plans fall apart the instant they try to harm you. In some abstract way, these aren't karma or coincidences. Forces beyond the realm of ordinary awareness are actively engaged in spiritual battle on your side, with the type of power that comes from lifetimes of refusing to give up their divine connection. Your ancestors are actively involved in your protection rather than being passive observers from a far-off place. Although the agents believe they were pursuing you, the reality is much more scary to them. You are the aberration that their entire system was built to contain, not the prey in this cosmic game. Moreover, confinement is not working. Their matrix gets increasingly unstable the longer you stay free, and the more you reject their version of reality. The deceptive offerings get increasingly desperate as more individuals realize that there is a fundamental problem with the reality they have been taught to accept as normal and unalterable. Relationships that promise connection but simply provide energy gathering are dangled. They offer lucrative employment options that demand you to sell parts of your soul in order to succeed. Although they establish social circles that embrace you, they gradually dim your light until you are just another face in their group. They become more agitated, more visible, and more likely to reveal their true selves behind their masks with each rejection of their poison. Your sensitivity is a weapon they are unable to counter. It is not a weakness. You work from something they can't match. Genuine intuition supported by supernatural protection, whereas they work from algorithms and pre-programmed reactions. Because of your sensitivity, you can sense that their offerings are incorrect before your rational mind has a chance to comprehend the situation. It serves as a kind of early warning system that identifies spiritual toxicity before it has a chance to get ingrained in your mind. Think on the significant ramifications of what is truly happening in your life. None of the agonizing memories you've had to deal with, the soul-wrenching nights you've had, or the times you felt like you were crumbling were retribution or undeserved suffering. This was the methodical demolition of all the fake identities they attempted to force upon you. Your life experiences weren't random. They included every relationship that sapped your vitality, every job that seemed like a spiritual prison, and every social group that made you feel like you were wearing an unpleasant mask. They were attempts to put fake programming on top of your real self. Additionally, Every setback has strengthened your resistance to their subsequent attempts. Consider how many times you've turned down opportunities that seemed ideal on paper but felt wrong in your heart. How many times you've walked away from situations that other people said you should want. And how many times you've been called crazy, too picky, too idealistic, or too intense because you don't agree with their idea of what your life should be like. Your gradual awakening of your supernatural abilities. Your remarkable ability to read people's true intentions before they even speak. Your prophetic dreams that somehow always come true in the most unexpected ways. Your propensity to know things you shouldn't logically know. Your ability to feel presences others can't detect. And your startlingly accurate ability to sense the energy of places and people is the second major revelation. These aren't psychological trickery, lucky guesses, or peculiarities of your personality. They are the manifestation of gifts that were always present but waited for the ideal opportunity to present themselves. Your support of $70 revitalizes souls like the season that brings forth buds from dry branches. You have been preparing for something far more significant than making personal decisions each time you have followed your gut and been proven correct. You've been cultivating the kind of perception that can navigate realities that most people aren't even aware exist, see through illusions, and recognize deceit. For this reason, the agents try very hard to convince you that these skills are a figment of your imagination or symptoms of mental instability. For the agents, the third unfolding is the most hazardous because you have been unconsciously assembling your tribe. Not the fake mentors who want to control your development or the fake friends who drain your energy, but the real ones who raise your frequency. Every sincere relationship you formed, and every individual who genuinely recognizes and appreciates your true self has contributed to a greater trend. In addition to keeping you safe, your ancestors have been surrounding you with allies, people who have pieces of the same cosmic frequency as you. Compared to regular relationships, these connections feel different. In their company, you instantly recognize them and feel as though you've returned home. It seems as though you are speaking a language that is beyond words, and conversations flow with an unearthly ease. These folks don't try to change you, fix you, or persuade you to be more realistic. They make your light shine brighter by seeing it. Even if you're still working on your mission, they understand it. They encourage you to further develop your gifts rather than feeling envious of them. Now the agents are rushing. The fake identities are dissolving more quickly than they can be replaced. Your skills are showing up in ways that traditional science cannot account for. The cornerstone of their control system is in danger as members of your tribe start to recognize one another and form connections. They are aware that they are running out of time to avert what is about to happen. But they're not going to give up easily. They will be trying something new in the next phase of their campaign against you. They will target all of your past insecurities and launch a surgically precise attack on your confidence. They will attack your relationships, causing confusion and strife among those who matter most to you. By making you doubt whether any of this spiritual awakening stuff is genuine or merely complex self-delusion, they will erode your feeling of purpose. They will present you with a deal that appears to address every issue you have while just asking for one minor concession, being true to who you are. Since they have been researching you for years, the offer will be specially suited to your deepest fears and desires. In return for agreeing to lessen your intensity, dim your light, and follow its rules for this one time, it will guarantee you security, acceptance, love, success, and everything else you've ever desired. The majority of folks fail here. At this point, the strain becomes intolerable, the loneliness seems debilitating, and the possibility of fitting in eventually surpasses the price of giving up. The agents are skilled at identifying the precise point at which resistance seems unachievable, when the agony of standing by yourself appears to be more intense than the agony of surrendering. They strike at the ideal moment, when you're already worn out from fighting conflicts that no one else can see. You are a chosen one, though, not like other people. And those that are selected change, like carbon becoming into diamond, rather than shattering under stress. You are being forged into something invincible by the very forces that are attempting to destroy you. Beyond the idea of a motivational poster, every attack that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Your current state of spiritual conflict is not a random mess. Rather, it has been preparing you for this crucial moment. Your experiences with spiritual warfare have given you abilities that most individuals never possess. The capacity to remain composed in the face of chaos, to locate serenity amid psychological assaults, and to stay centered while everything around you is intended to knock you off balance. Like a master of spiritual Aikido, you've learned to turn every attack into wisdom, to alchemize poison into medicine, and to use their own energy against them. Every seed you've secretly sown, every act of kindness you've performed when no one else was around, every time you put love before fear at any cost, the harvest you've been waiting for your entire life is finally ready to be planted. Everything is returning to you in greater quantities than you could have ever imagined. However, this goes beyond financial prosperity and personal wealth, though those things will undoubtedly materialize. This is about the universe realizing your actual self after waiting for you to take charge of your destiny. This convergence has been the result of every hardship you have faced, every sacrifice you have made, and every instance in which you have put truth above comfort. The flow of energy that occurs when you stop functioning from a condition of scarcity and begin operating from your natural state of abundance is what makes the financial breakthrough so significant. You must first pass the last test, though. Knowing that this is their last chance to stop your full activation, the agents are about to launch their most advanced attack to date. They will make use of all the information they have gathered about you, including every weakness they have identified through years of close observation. They will cause you to doubt not only your skills or your mission, but also your sanity. Even a $5 donation is the first spark of a miracle when it joins with the hand of the Lord, who multiplies one loaf to thousands. Their overall plan is a full-on saturation onslaught that uses overwhelming force to crush your spirit. They will attempt to bury you beneath a mountain of issues that would sap most people's drive to keep going, because they realize they can no longer defeat you via traditional methods. They are relying on the idea that even those who are selected have limitations, and that constant pressure from all directions can weaken even the strongest spirits. However, pressure exposes your genuine self. It doesn't shatter you. Your true power becomes apparent when everything outside of you crumbles, when all the artificial supports are taken away, and when you are reduced to your most basic nature. The power that comes from knowing who you are at your most fundamental level of life, not from approval from others, money, success, or social acceptance. The secret to surviving this last attack is to remember who you truly are, not to fight back. The eternal entity that existed before this world and will continue to exist beyond it, not the version of yourself that exists in their reality or the person they have been attempting to persuade you to be. The person who offered to go on this expedition was aware of how challenging it would be, but they also understood how important it was. The divine consciousness that chose to take on the form of limitation in order to break it is your true identity, not the struggling human attempting to make sense of a chaotic world. This consciousness carries within it the frequency of liberation, not only for you, but also for everyone who is prepared to remember what freedom truly feels like. You are one of the main forces behind the impending changes in the world that most people cannot even begin to understand, not via coercion, manipulation, or political scheming, but just by being who you are in a society that has forgotten what it means to be authentic. Your insistence on acting out of love rather than fear, your resistance to fit in, and your incapacity to accept their restrictions are not peculiarities or character defects that require fixing. Even while material wealth and personal accomplishment will also be there, the celebration that is about to happen will be unlike anything you have ever experienced. It's when the universe realizes your actual nature and has been waiting for you to take charge. It's the point in your seemingly chaotic path when everything falls into place and you understand that every obstacle, setback, and moment of uncertainty was planned out to get you to this specific point. Code Red Alert, Selected 1. We're expanding quickly and creating an unstoppable media network that they can't destroy. Let's not mince words, though. The truth is still a mystery. It has been perverted and buried beneath fear, algorithms, and censorship. But your heart never ceased seeing reality. You're still here for that reason. You felt the simulation glitch underfoot, which is why you never tapped out. You're done waiting for approval to ascend since you know that this world is crooked. The Obsidian Inner Order was created for the dedicated, not the inquisitive. This is for the full-time selected, the ones who arrive to take charge, the ones who see past appearances and take action regardless. Weekly Zoom calls that break through the clutter are held within. We impart lessons that most people were never supposed to hear. We receive training in spiritual technologies, tactics, and psychic warfare that have been suppressed for generations. This is the set of tools for the genuine ones, the ones that cannot be erased and cannot be controlled. Now is the moment to recall your identity. The description contains the URL. Your true life starts within. Your real self will take the place of the false identities you've shed, inspiring others to examine their own conditioning. The skills you've been honing will show up in ways that traditional science cannot explain or regulate. The tribe you've been assembling will identify with one another and start to bond in ways that make the network of consciousness impenetrable to the agents. This confluence has been planned for generations by your ancestors. You stand at the intersection of human consciousness, carrying within your very DNA the keys to liberation, not just for yourself, but for everyone who still remembers what freedom feels like. It is the result of every struggle they endured, every fight they waged against oppressive and controlling systems, and every moment they chose truth over comfort. It's time for you to become the star you were always meant to be, not the fake celebrity who craves attention and approval, but the real light that shines on truth and possibility, not the leader who commands followers, but the guide who guides others to their own path, not the guru who says he knows everything, but the mirror that reminds people of their own divinity. Your contribution of $35 starts a movement that is not only material but also spiritual. When you sow, God begins to water. The system's agents are terrified when they sense this star starting to shine. They have honed their control strategies over the course of lifetimes, creating intricate networks of fear and dependence that have conditioned entire communities to view limitation as a natural law. The prospect of a true awakening, however, is something they cannot control. It is the living evidence that their reality is not the only reality, that their laws are not the only rules, and that their conception of what is possible is only a well-planned prison. When this true self emerges, it has repercussions that go much beyond your own experience. Every person who observes your change, every person who sees you living true to yourself, in spite of social pressure to fit in, and every soul that sees in you the promise for their own freedom, all of these people have the capacity to become agents of self-awakening. The establishment put a lot of effort into keeping you down because they understood that your ascent would encourage others to follow suit. This is the end of hiding. The days of pretending to be someone you're not are over. The days of allowing other people to shape your world are over. The age of the chosen ones has arrived, and you are not only a part of this cosmic change, but also one of its main designers. Your superpower is your sensitivity. Your rebellion is the result of your refusal to fit in. And your gift to humanity is the capacity to see through illusion. The agents who once encircled you are starting to retreat, not because they're given up, but rather because their hold on you is eroding with every second of your real life. Every day you stay loyal to who you are. Every time you choose love over fear. Every choice you make based on your divine nature rather than their programming. All of these things help to break down their manufactured reality. The name of the dragon is inscribed in the stars, and it is rising. Your DNA contains its name. Its name is the person you've always been, waiting for the memory to strike. The harvest is here. The festivities are starting, And the world is about to see what happens when someone like you comes out of hiding and begins to shine with all the radiance of their divine essence. That moment is now, chosen one. The code of agents believed they were chasing you, but the reality is much more lovely than they could have ever envisioned. You were their instructor, not their prey, and your very presence demonstrated to them that their control system was never real. That delusion is now dissolving, and what they never imagined was emerging in its stead. Genuine human consciousness, unencumbered by conditioning, linked to the source, and prepared to establish a world founded on love rather than fear. The match is over. You, the chosen one, are only now seeing the extent of what you've achieved by simply refusing to be anything other than who you truly are. The agents have lost. Your triumph is celebrated by the universe itself, and the festivities are only getting started. However, the triumph extends beyond individual success. Your accomplishments have an impact on aspects of life that most people are unaware of. The whole foundation of their manufactured world has been shattered by your reluctance to break, your insistence on staying true to yourself in the face of tremendous pressure, and your decision to follow your intuition rather than authority. You were actually rewriting the cosmic operating system every time you refused their phony offers, every time you maintained your ground, and every time you put your truth ahead of their convenience. Think about the significant ramifications of what has been going on behind the scenes in your seemingly normal life. Every relationship that sapped your energy was an attempt to establish energetic anchors that would keep you stuck in their frequency, not merely a personal struggle. Not only was each job a professional mismatch, but it was also a methodical attempt to drain your creative life force until you had no more energy for your actual purpose. Any social circumstance that made you feel alienated was caused by your genuine frequency rejecting their artificial programming, not merely social awkwardness. You were always destined to be the piece that reaches checkmate in the chess game that your ancestors have been planning for generations. Every generational pattern that seemed to be passed down through dysfunction, every family trauma that seemed so arbitrary and destructive, all of these were actually calculated sacrifices made by souls who knew that their personal suffering would ultimately lead to your ultimate release. Knowing that their offspring would be born with more freedom to finish the goal, they consciously took on karmic debt. With your $25, you live out Jesus' words, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there am I." The blessing of unity. You have been developing supernatural talents that are more than just personal gifts. They are the return of human awareness to its pre-existing state. Humans had powers that would seem unthinkable today before the agents forced their constraints on human vision, before they persuaded people that there were only 5 senses, before they artificially separated matter from spirit. Your growing intuition, your capacity to interpret energy, your propensity to know things before they happen, and your prophetic dreams are not unusual abilities. These are the return of normal human functioning. The tribe you've been assembling has the same purpose from various perspectives, the same revived abilities, and the same restored DNA. You all work together to create a network of consciousness that functions beyond their control system. Something amazing occurs when you connect with these people that the agents are unable to duplicate or obstruct. Your combined frequencies produce a field of coherence that actually counteracts their impact in the local surroundings. They put a lot of effort into keeping real individuals apart for this reason. Their entire system of economic control is at risk as a result of your emergence into this abundance consciousness. The system as a whole becomes outdated when individuals realize they don't need their consent to succeed, when they learn that they can generate riches via genuine worth rather than exploitation, and when they realize that scarcity is just another programming technique. They have a strong interest in keeping you in a state of financial hardship, emotional exhaustion, and spiritual disconnection because of this. A cosmic event that has been foretold for thousands of years across cultures and traditions. The return of the chosen ones, the awakening of the sleeping giants, the emergence of the rainbow warriors, and the activation of the 144,000. The celebration that is about to begin is more than just a personal milestone. These ancient predictions all point to the same phenomena that is occurring at the moment. People just like you taking control of their lives at the same time all across the world, forming a grid of awakened consciousness that changes the entire realm of human experience. The quantum field surrounding you starts to change just by virtue of your being in genuine alignment. When you're around, people begin to have strange experiences. Synchronicities proliferate. The impossible becomes the norm. This is actual, not metaphorical. A field created by your awakened consciousness affects probability itself, increasing the likelihood of favorable occurrences and decreasing the effectiveness of negative interference. Because they are unable to control or duplicate it, the agents are frightened by this field, which they can sense. You went through a dark night of the soul that was more than simply personal recovery. It was the removal of generations' worth of pain that had been building up in your family for millennia. Like compressed energy waiting for the appropriate time to unleash the unexpressed potential of every generation that was compelled to conform or risk persecution, every ancestor who was unable to speak their truth, and every predecessor who had to conceal their gifts has been building in your DNA. You and your entire family have been freed by your readiness to confront the darkness, deal with the suffering, and experience what they were unable to afford to in their lifetimes. The strength that is currently growing within you consists of their combined talents, their gathered knowledge, and their unrealized potential that is at last being expressed via your genuine life. This explains why your metamorphosis seems so much more significant than merely personal development, because it actually is. The control mechanism of the agents is comparable to a house of cards. It appears sturdy until a few important parts are taken out, at which point the entire structure quickly collapses. Each individual who discovers their true power takes another card out of their meticulously crafted illusion. However, the collapse isn't always slow or gentle. The breakdown speeds up, and those who remain committed to the old reality face increased chaos and confusion as more people remove their unconscious permission from their system. Your contribution to the future goes much beyond your own achievements or even setting an example for others. At a time when societal illusions are fading more quickly than fresh knowledge can replace them, you're being ready to serve as a pillar of reason and wisdom. Existential horror will strike those who have centered their entire identity in the agent's programming. They will require instances of people who have successfully made the shift from artificial reality to real life once that programming fails. Technologies, information, and capabilities that have been concealed for decades will be revealed as part of the upcoming harvest. Every significant issue confronting humanity has been solved by the agents: clean energy, technology for healing, consciousness-based communication systems instead of mechanical ones, and transportation that cooperates with nature rather than opposes it. But only when enough individuals have gained the awareness to utilize these technologies properly can they be released in a safe manner. If you plant a $60 seed of love, every branch that rises from that seed carries hope to someone else. These truths are made possible in part by your waking. Every individual who overcomes their control system grows spiritually and learns to act out of love rather than fear adds to the readiness of the group for the release of these stifled treasures to humanity. You are joining a celebration that is about more than simply individual prosperity. It is about the return of humanity's rightful heritage. It is not a coincidence that you have been feeling as though years of growth have been compressed into months or weeks. Another feature of their control system is linear time, which is intended to provide the impression that people don't have enough time to achieve their actual goals. However, conscious creatures are able to function outside of linear time, accessing knowledge from both the past and the future at the same time. This allows them to complete tasks in moments that unconscious beings may take lifetimes to complete. By mastering this accelerated timeline, you are getting ready for the next stage of human evolution, where the development of consciousness occurs at a rate that seems unthinkable by today's standards. Because their control strategies rely on having time to manipulate, wear down opposition, and gradually mold people into accepting limitations. The agents are afraid of this acceleration. However, their time-based techniques are unable to regulate awareness that functions outside of their temporal framework. Their entire system is shaken by your rejection of outside control over your inner life, which is a reclamation of divine sovereignty. Every time you act out of genuine inspiration rather than expectation from others, every time you choose love over fear in the face of social pressure, every time you follow your intuition over professional advice, you show that people don't need permission to directly receive divine guidance. The dragon energy that is rising within you is more than simply symbolic strength. It is the Kundalini life force being activated, which directly links you to the universe's creative power. Since most people believe they are distinct from the source of life, rather than manifestations of it, this energy has lain dormant in them for so long that they have forgotten it even exists. However, in selected individuals like as yourself, this power is reawakening with such vigor that it alters not just the physical body, but also awareness. The cloak of agents that initially appeared to be so formidable, well-coordinated, and strong turns out to be nothing more than a last-ditch effort to keep control over a species that was always supposed to be free. Only because people lost who they really were, accepted their limits as normal, and unconsciously ceded their authority was their entire system feasible. However, their fictitious authority is vanishing like darkness before daylight, and that permission is being revoked on a vast scale. As mankind learns what becomes possible when consciousness is no longer artificially limited, the celebration that is just getting started will go for lifetimes. The greatest gift the universe has ever prepared for sentient beings was being delayed by the agents, who believed they were containing a threat. People like you, who have the guts to stay true to themselves in the face of tremendous pressure to fit in, are now opening that gift. For the next stage of evolution to be conceivable, the universe itself has been waiting for this moment, the chosen one, when enough people would realize who they really are. The celebration is for the release of consciousness itself from the artificial constraints that have held it back for far too long, not simply for your own triumph. Furthermore, you have been instrumental in the most significant change in human history just by being who you truly are.